So one other thing that we definitely need to talk about, because you have firsthand experience and I want to learn more about this,
Hmm.
is your experience. Okay, you've made Blue Revolver, you're ready to go, you're ready to release. What has your experience been on the sales, marketing, getting it out there, getting it in people's hands side of things? I imagine that is a massive challenge and undertaking for an indie developer.
Definitely. People talk about discovery a lot, discoverability, but one thing that I think is really important, I think people's purchasing and discovery habits regarding games, I think they're all wrong. I think people
I
now
agree.
they go to I think they go to Steam or whatever, and they've got one of two fantasies in mind. The really stupid people, they think that it's just going to magically spit the perfect game at them, just sight unseen. And the slightly less stupid people, they think that if they do this, they can have a bird's eye view of every game that's coming out. When there's just too many games, you can't do that. So you do have to rely on reviewers and websites and magazines and podcasts and these sorts of things. And then we're talking about genre literacy, which is a huge problem for shooting games.
You know who is probably the biggest number one way to discover shmups
Mm-hmm.
is Jamers. His channel. So many people, including myself, discover shmups via Jamers' channel, like
Mm-hmm.
obscure shmups, Ten and Till, for instance. Like he's probably one of the biggest sources for discoverability for your game, is if Jamers plays your game and puts it on his channel.
Yeah, and that's definitely the case. But I feel like even that can only go so far compared to like a write up in a magazine or a website or a discussion on a podcast. Because I feel like gameplay footage, it says a lot, but it can only say a very narrow amount of itself. In terms of genre literacy, I have this really vivid memory of Rock Paper Shotgun, and we got a mention in there, which I'm very grateful for that. I think it was when our demo came out, or perhaps at release. And I remember this very vividly because the mention mostly talked about the movie Shoot 'em Up, which came out at about the same time, because they didn't really know how to approach a game like this. And I'm not holding it that against them. It's just these places they're so overworked. They have to cover so much with only so much staff. They have troubles getting funded, etc. And a lot of the times your game just simply doesn't give them what they need because they have their own topics that they want to discuss. Here is a cave type game. It's just not going to give them the clicks that they need. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I definitely know what that's like,
Yeah.
especially helping, working for Nintendo Life for a bit there.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
is really nice when you see people breaking through from the really niche crowd like yourself into places like Nintendo Life, even if this obviously has its own problems. I remember seeing the review of Destiny, Ketsui Destiny in
Yes.
Eurogamer of all places, which is really
Yes.
cool, and
Yes.
it was by Spadgy, I think, and it was like, holy shit, this is actually proper, actually saying good shit about this game and this port. It was really cool.
You know what was also a surprisingly good review? It's a few years ago, but was Forbes did a review of Battle Garega Rev 2016. It was actually pretty damn good. I
Well,
was like, wow,
they
Forbes.
they interviewed the game disc.
Yeah, I was like, wow, Forbes. Good work.
There's also problems. There's a huge problem I think that's facing shooting games in particular, in terms of how it fits into the lives of the common gaming audience. Shooting
Yeah.
games really want to be
Yeah.
they want to be a lifestyle genre, right? You play a
Yes,
credit here and there. You
I've
play
said that
maybe,
many times.
yeah, you play every day, etc., or maybe every second day, etc. But at the same time, there are so many games out there that want to also occupy that space, and they use every trick in the book. They've got your leveling, you've got your battle passes, you've got your dailies, action roguelites, you've got all your randomness. You might get an insane build one day and then awful dog shit the next. You've got all this stuff, which is
And FOMO
weaponized
too.
against the players. Yeah,
Like the
exactly.
whole
That's
social media thing and people like, okay, we're all playing Last of Us 2 this week. Oh, we're all playing this new game this really, there's also this cycle within the gaming ecosystem, I guess, whatever you call it, of,
that.
oh,
Yeah,
this is
certainly
the it
that.
game. We're all going to play and talk about it and then move on to the next one, move on to the next one. Yeah. And how do you fit
Though I'm
Donamachi 2 all into that schedule
definitely, definitely. Though I'm specifically talking about
in game?
in-game like mechanics, like a battle pass, like dailies, like leveling, etc. And it is just weaponized against players to consume their time, basically, because it works for them. So because shooting games want to occupy this space, but we're unwilling to use these awful tricks, and rightly so, it's so hard to expand an audience and even to maintain an audience, which is why players leave the scene all the time.
Yeah, I definitely have been thinking about this a lot as far as even on my side of things, like creating content and stuff too for shmups. How do you convey this lifestyle aspect of shmups to people who don't get it? Because like people, like you're saying, people view shmups as basically mobile games or something. It's like, okay, you play it for a few minutes, you get to stage 3, you move on with your life. Oh, whatever. A lot of people are like that. And then the shmup players, like you're saying, it's like a lifestyle thing, and you really can't fit a whole lot in there. So it's like you're a shmup player, you're an arcade player, you're a fighting game player. You're not going to be playing WoW a bunch and all those types of things because there's just not the time for it. Maybe, but at least for me, I don't have the time for that.
Yeah, I mean, if you play like any big multiplayer game these days, you're on the unenviable path of like having 2 battle passes to level at the same time, and it's like, mate, I can't even wash my dishes at the same time as all this shit. How am I going to play actually good video games? You know?
Yeah, and it's crazy, like you're saying, where they're pushing further and further down this.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, they want. I'm not even sure why. I guess to make you buy DLC and make you buy microtransactions.
Yeah,
I guess.
it's all predicated on just putting you in front of their storefront all the time. The new Call of Duty game, well, the current Call of Duty game, that shuffles its store every day. So they want you in there every day just to see, oh, look, I can buy a gun with weed leaves on it. Awesome. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. And
Yeah, because think about it in the past too. This has really been on my mind. I'm gonna make a video about this. How when you look at games like Metal Gear Solid 2, even like the bigger published studios, they didn't give a how long you played Metal Gear Solid 2. Who cares? We sell you the game, you buy the game, we got our money, we're making Metal Gear Solid 3, you play Metal Gear Solid 2 and enjoy it. There isn't like this whole, okay, we need to micromanage you and keep an eye on you. Like, hey, keep playing. We need more time in the game. You know what I mean? There's like this whole different aspect.
There was friction in those days, even with the rental market, which is why, in the case of Metal Gear Solid, European extreme difficulty exists, because there was a sensation of having to make games much harder for the Western audience because renting games was so much more common there. But these days, it
That's
is
awesome.
laser focused. It is
awesome,
weaponized.
though.
Did you not know that?
Well, I did know that, but I did not know it was because of renting. I thought it was just because they're like, screw it. But
no,
that's
actually
the funny
Japanese...
thing is, though, isn't that kind of cool? Because we got European Extreme, which is my favorite way to play Metal Gear Solid. So it's kind of
definitely.
like, even
But
if it was a negative, it ended up being kind of a positive for the player.
Sure. I'm just saying that this has always been like games have always kind of vied for the player's time in a way, but now it is laser focused. It is just weaponized in a kind of terrifying sense. I don't know how we escape that. It doesn't seem to be abstaining from it.
Yeah, I feel like the only way to do it, especially because it's interesting, where I'll watch my fellow YouTubers and like much bigger YouTubers and stuff like that talking about, like Jim Sterling, I watch his channel a bunch, talking about all their concerns and problems with the industry and all this stuff. And I always wonder, like, what point do these people realize you just got to walk away from it and just start, like, for me, I'm almost exclusively play and buy indie games now. And it's not because I'm, it's this big ethical thing, or I think it's like moral, or no, it's just mainstream games do not give me what I want anymore. It's boring to me. Like I bought a game, like a more recent game, and I was sitting down, even Metal Gear Solid 5, which I did like, but I remember playing Metal Gear Solid 5, and there's that whole first mission where it's like basically this an hour tutorial. I'm like, what the is this? Like,
yeah.
Or like the RPG stuff, like all that stuff now, I'm a lot less tolerant to it because I spend all my time playing shmups and fighting games and like arcade games. And so when new games are coming out, I literally cannot play them because I get bored within an hour and I'm like, okay. So I almost exclusively do indie and play indie games and stuff. And so I'm wondering if that's just what needs to happen for people within our interest. We just need to kind of just walk away from the mainstream gaming altogether and just play and buy indie games exclusively.
Even indie games are not inoculated from this. I even see like randomness in action roguelites as part of this problem, where it is kind of
I'm not a big fan.
Almost like stealing mastery from the player and just playing on various compulsions in the brain, various like brain elements. You could talk about the Skinner box. You could talk about all sorts of things here. So I don't think indies can even inoculate themselves from it. You can abstain, and you can gain a little bit of an audience doing that. But it is so hard to expand an audience and to maintain it, is basically what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I'm wondering, I guess, the more optimistic outlook, I guess, is if there just comes a point, I actually don't know if this will happen, I guess, but if there comes a point where a lot of gamers literally just get bored of the mainstream stuff, and it's not like this big, like I said, this big revolutionary thing. It's just over time, people are like, okay, this is actually, you know what I mean? It's kind of like Star Wars. It's like, okay, we went and saw Force Awakens, we went and saw the sequel trilogy, and it's like, okay, am I really going to go see the next Star Wars movies? For me, I'm like, no. They've exhausted this interest out of me, and I wonder if mainstream gaming is going to go down that road. It's like people are literally going to be like, okay, I'm bored of Call of Duty now. I'm bored of Last of Us or whatever. Like, I want a real game.
There's a whole media section, which is, and streaming and so on, which is also part of this, which is just tasked with pushing these games onto people. I don't think that, talking about like battle royale games, I don't think people would have chosen to play battle royale games of their own accord, because if you describe the concept to someone, it kind of sounds like it sucks, you know? Oh, it's all up to luck. Oh, I'm mostly just running around fields and not like actually interacting with people. That sounds awful. But it was pushed on people by streamers, by publications, etc., and it consequently became very popular.
Yeah, that is interesting how that works, isn't it? How much what we play is part of that ecosystem. Like I guess I was talking about earlier, like that's why I'm just wonder if a lot of these controversies around games and stuff, like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Last of Us 2, ultimately just benefit the games in the end, because it gets them so much, it makes it like the it thing. It's like, oh shit, okay, this game's causing heat. I gotta check it out, right?
Yeah.
Like all the people who hate Final Fantasy VII Remake or whatever are spending like hundreds of hours talking about it and complaining about it. It's like, wow, you are putting a lot of time onto this game. You know what I mean? Even if you're being negative.
Yeah, definitely.
But we talked about this. There's this particular topic I want to talk about, which is Steam itself. Your Blue Revolver's on Steam. It is also on itch.io. And this is a video I'm going to be making very here soon. And I want to get your opinion on this. What do you think about Steam as a platform versus something like itch? Because I've been trying, and especially in the new video, trying to sort of nudge people into considering, okay, maybe you should check out the itch versions and check out these versions, because Steam takes a hefty cut of your sales, 30%. That's crazy. So what's your perspective on this?
Maybe I guess I'll break this down to 3 points, which is the first one entirely technical. Steam's backdoor tools are a mess. They are awful. They are old. It is like, I'm going to use a gun metaphor here. They're like a high point C9, right? It works, but it is thoroughly debasing to use. Whereas itch's like backdoor tools, they are modern, flexible. You can just upload your game on a web form if you like, or you can like generate patches, etc. with their command line tools. It's a blessing to work with. Even stuff like leaderboards, Steam's functionality on that is underbaked, even at this point. Like, there's no way for me to say, hey, Steam, if someone says they have a score of 900 quadrillion or whatever, maybe that's not a legit high score and you should reject that. No, they will not let you do that. You have to implement your own infrastructure to do that. And at that point, it's like, mate, you get 30%. Like, what am I giving you money for if I don't even get stuff like that? So there is that.
And real quick on the 30%, because I mentioned this in one of my videos, and it's like, talking ish on Steam is, I feel kind of like the equivalent of talking ish on Nintendo. Like, there's some real Steam lovers out there. Like, if you talk, you know what I mean? You got to, those have something to say, is what I'm getting at. And I remember I was saying, hey, Steam's taking a hefty 30%. That seems, especially for the small, market of indie shmups and stuff like that, that seems pretty crazy for what they're giving. And one person's counter argument was that 30% was worth it because if you're getting sales on Steam, they're going to push your game in an algorithm and it's going to be more discoverable and you'll get more sales and it'll like snowball. Is that at all true in your experience?
There was a talk in 2019, a guy that represented a company called No More Robots, which is an indie publisher, and that was specifically looking at Steam. 78% of released titles made less than $5,000 in their first year. Ask them how well the algorithm worked for them. And then
Right.
you might say, okay, all those games were probably trash, which is like, okay, guy, sure. Even once you take all these out of the equation, your median game sells like 1,500 copies and it makes 16K. That's after you've like taken the chaff from the wheat. The algorithm, whatever that is, it is not helping people. In terms of the revenues,
because I did not find Blue Revolver via the algorithm.
No.
I found Blue Revolver via the shmup community.
Yeah. In terms
And I
of
was on
revenue
Steam
split,
long before that.
the main problem that a lot of people have with the revenue split is that it is non-progressive and it is just fixed in stone. Like if you're using all of Steam's like features, like all of their platform, if you have like a multiplayer game and you're using all of their like matchmaking stuff and you're using mods like modding tools, etc., and all of this stuff, then maybe there's more of a case to be made for the 30%. But no,
Or if
you
your
have
game is like
100
gigs or something too.
yeah,
like,
exactly. So there is that, and also it's not progressive. So these games that made less than $5,000, which is not even like rent, Steam still takes their 30%, even though that is like just killing them basically. It should be like up until this point we'll take nothing. Up until this point we'll take a little bit more. We'll take a little bit more. We'll take a little bit more. That's how it should work. But there's no way to discuss this with them because Steam has all the leverage. People have like
Right.
this. There's just this massive like vendor lock-in. Like if you use Steam, all your friends are on Steam. All your games are on Steam. All the reviews, the discussion, that's on Steam. All the game guides are on Steam. All of the mods want to be on Steam. And so no wonder people like defend this platform so ardently. All of their shit is on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the feeling I kind of get too, because I personally am very ambivalent about Steam from a consumer side, where it's like, okay, it's on Steam, it's not on Steam, I really don't care. I personally, I found this app or whatever called Play Night. It's kind of like a free game launcher or whatever. I like it a lot. And I just get my itch games or my whatever just downloaded from DL site for some shmups and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just use that and launch it. And I personally like it better because Steam has all those sort of like, oh, you got to connect to Steam, you got to get in there, you got to launch it. It just feels like, for me, from even a user perspective, what is Steam doing for the shmupper? Like, what does Steam give you that you can't get off an itch.io, right? Like you're saying. For instance, with are you not doing like multiplayer and all that sort of thing, or the Steam leaderboards? I had this huge kerfluffle with Danbo Unlimited 3 in the damn Steam leaderboard, so I don't have warm feelings towards that either.
Okay,
so
yeah. What was that then?
Well, what it is that Danbo Unlimited 3 does not have any in-game leaderboards that are like, they have your own personal in-game leaderboard, but it doesn't have like other people's scores in-game. So I assumed there was no Steam leaderboards because, there's no in-game indicator of that or anything like that, and it's not that easy to find. So I was going off of the forum, and I was going off of like the shmup community and like Pazzy's replays. And so I ended up beating a certain mode, beating Pazzy's score in it in Shmup Slam 3. And for a year or so, I thought until Shmup Slam 3, I thought I had the highest score because I couldn't find any higher scores on the farm, on the French website, anywhere online. I was higher than all the other replays on YouTube. I was like, okay, I have the record score for this, It's True Spirit mode. And I achieved it live on Slam 3, and I was really hyped, and I was all excited about it. And then people afterward were like, oh, you didn't check the Steam leaderboards. You're lying. You're a liar. You don't have the real score. The highest score is Pazzy's ridiculous score on the Steam leaderboards. And I'm like, what Steam leaderboards? And then I open up the game. I'm like, there is no Steam leaderboards. And then, of course, like, if you dig into Steam somewhere, you can find these
There's
Steam
like a
leaderboards.
hidden view of it, basically. That sucks.
Yeah.
Man. That sucks.
And the other thing, too, is I don't think Pazzy cheated, but there is no replay of his score, and it's like this massive score, so it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll never know how Pazzy got that score.
Yeah.
It's also...
you probably don't know this, but leaderboards and replays, they were delayed on Blue Revolver's launch. They just were not ready for a fair amount of time because of problems that I've went into on my own, like, writings, etc. And like the leaderboards, that's fairly simple to implement, but there's literally no point in having leaderboards without replays. There's literally no point, in my opinion.
Yeah, you got to get the replays in there. I agree.
Like, you can fake a replay, sure, but it's still like that's at least work, you know?
Well, you have something to work off of too, right? Like let's say that name was not Pazzy's, it was Sir John 69's with his mother.
Okay.
And I just have to say, okay, well, according to Steam, Sir John 69's has the highest score. There's no video. There's no replay.
Yeah.
We just have to kind of assume. And you can easily cheat in Danbo Unlimited 3 by just, if you go into you can just slow down the frame rate. Okay, I'm playing at, Pericles style. I'm playing at half speed now. I'm playing at 1/4 speed. So, and there's no verification without any sort of replays or anything like that. And the nice thing about Blue Revolver is it's in the game. So you can open Blue Revolver and Kiwi's score is there. Whoever's highest score is there. It's not like this hidden aspect that's not hinted to anywhere and you have to go dig it up somewhere. And yeah, so I don't have a soft spot for Steam leaderboards in any case.
Yeah. The final thing about Steam I don't like is the sales culture.
Yeah, talk about that.
I've been waiting for this one for years. Anyway, so people have been trained to wait for deep discounts on any arbitrary game just because that's how it's worked on Steam for
like
so long.
Crimson Clover for $1.50.
Crimson Clover for $1.50. People won't get out of bed for more than 50% at least. They won't even look at the price. They'll look at the percentage, which is they've been trained to do this.
I imagine it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
They've been trained to do this by, big games and the fact that Steam has ran these events for years and years and years. And, you have to take part because this is where this is your bread and butter. You've got your launch week, which is usually a disaster for most people, and then you've got sales events. So if you don't take part in this constant devaluing of your own work, you're not going to come away with anything. And as a result, pricing is becoming a problem again. Used to be like, you make an Xbox Live Arcade game, that's $10. It's $10. That's received wisdom. It's $10. Awesome. You know what you're getting. Now, people are like, oh, this game that I've worked on for so long, this awesome game is 10, 15 maybe? And everyone...
I've talked to devs who are now thinking of releasing at $5. I'm not kidding. Like at $5.
No.
I'm like, don't do it. Do not do that.
That's
horrible.
The nail in your own coffin. It's ridiculous. But yeah, you're like stressing out over this, and then you just look at a lot of your audience, and they're just going, price it whatever the you want, mate. I'm only paying half, probably less. So really, you've got two strategies, which is to be like Factorio, which is an insanely popular game, which is why they were able to do this, and just say, we're never doing sales. The game is this amount of money, take it or leave it. If you can't afford it, pirate it.
I really
we don't give a
respect
shit.
that a lot.
Yeah,
I really respect that a lot.
But they were only able to do that because they were so popular and they were able to get that message out there. Or you can inflate the base price of your game, which is kind of punishing the people that are supporting you at launch.
Yes.
Which, it's really not a happy place anyway. So I think the Steam sales culture has basically, we've been shooting ourselves in the foot for a long time, especially in indies.
Who benefits
this shit hurts
from
indies.
the Steam sales?
Steam.
Steam, of course. Like, it's, what's crazy about Steam? Yeah, it's, people don't see this, is that they're taking 30%, and then they're also deeply discounting their games. They're just the middleman. They're just pushing. The more they push, the more they make. They don't give it how much you make. So I hate the Steam sale culture as well, because it's basically, you guys are on the verge of becoming YouTubers. You're getting damn close to being like, okay, I'm releasing Blue Revolver Double Action and I'm opening a Patreon. So like, you guys are getting that close, because I'll see, Crimson Clover for $1.50. I'm like, what the like,
I'll tell you the real dystopia, which is coming. It is imminent. It's like shark fins sticking out of the ocean. Subscription services. These are getting more and more traction. You've got your Humble Choice, your EA Play, your PlayStation Plus, and your Xbox Game Pass. And that is becoming synonymous with the console now. If you buy 2 years of Game Pass, they'll give you the primo big boy Xbox.
Yeah,
I can't think
what's
of many
crazy
games.
Is YouTube, when I look at I'm always looking at other YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. Is all YouTubers look at this a lot of them anyway, look at this as very positive, because they're looking from the consumer side, right? It's like, we're getting access to all these loads of games for whatever. And they also go into they have this lifestyle of play the next hot game, move on. So for them, this is a great idea, because it's like, okay, I would spend $60 on a game that I play once and move on from. Then I spend another $60, play once, move on from. But if I do a subscription, I'll just play it once, move on, get on to the next hot one, play it once, move on. I can make videos for each game. I can upload, I can make more revenue this way. But for the game developers, for the indie shmup developers and the indie developers, it's like, now it's like you're competing with this model and you're trying to sell. It's just pushing it's devaluing everything.
I can't think of many games that are less well equipped for subscription services than shooting games. I can maybe 2 hour story games. That's it. It's a ramshackle and it's going to happen. Now, what'll happen is that there's going to be some nice honeymoon deals for a short generation of games. Think what's going on with the Epic Game Store right now. But after that, Spotify wages. Right, if you know any musician and you talk to them, you say, hey, how well did Spotify work out for you guys? And after you pick up all of your teeth from the floor, they will tell you it didn't work out so well for us.
Well, isn't it kind of like Steam, where the music publishers are making monies, but they're not passing it on to the artists at all?
Yeah, and it has a transformative effect on the kinds of games that can even exist. People are designing their music for Spotify, in a sense. People will have to design their games for subscription services. That might mean everyone now goes free to play, because it dodges the problem in a sense. Or they move heavier into microtransactions, etc. Or they waste more of your time because the subscription services pays per minute of game time, or so on.
Okay, so let's say I'm hired as your greasy, grimy agent, and I'm like, okay, Danbo, you're making Blue Revolver Double Action.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these ethics about being a shmup player, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. We need to make money on this motherfucker. So we need to transform this game to fit into this market better. So what changes are we going to make? Okay, we got to get microtransactions in there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we're actually going to start seeing this? I'm not saying it's going to happen from the hardcore shmup boys, but you can see people coming into shmup. What aspects are you going to see? I guess cosmetics first, right?
Shooting games are always going to be passion projects. So you're probably not going to see that from these. They'll just basically wither up and die.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's dramatic, but they'll just not get any money.
Like
rather
I was
than
saying before,
engage
you'll
in
get
this.
one release per developer because it's like
Mhm.
this was it, and then I need to move on with my life.
This was
So
it, and then subscription services came in and they say, this is nice. How about we take all of the money and then we don't give you any? You want to do something else? Tough. This is just how people consume games now. The like bigger indie games, you'll probably see something of a transformation there. You'll see more currencies introduced, probably, depending on the individual developer. Like roguelites, they're pretty well suited for implementing things like battle passes or cosmetics even. You could see
yes.
that working pretty easily.
Yeah, what about like the platformers? Because 2D platformers are still kind of a big bread and butter genre. The Hollow Knights, the Shovel Knights, those types of games. What do you think?
Not.
What do you think on those?
Those aren't really like a genre that I'm super into. So I couldn't really say if they can make it work. They will probably make it work. Some of those are probably going to be passion projects where they're just unwilling to take part in this, but I don't know.
But do you think? Yeah, so I definitely agree with these are my issues with Steam as well. Like you're saying, they're definitely strong arming indie developers, and there seems to be a strange unwillingness for people to kind of criticize that. And I think probably because, like you're saying, it's like the only game in town. It's like
Steam's if you don't like Steam, it means you like Epic, and then that means you're a shill for China or something like that. That's the vibe I get lately.
Or people will say, "Oh, you're just a fool. You don't understand how the game works. You don't understand." You know what I mean? I was getting comments about this when I was just mentioning this in one of my videos about, "Oh, well, you obviously don't understand that this is the way you succeed is by playing Steam's game, basically." And there are, of course, examples where Steam worked out for indie devs, but those are the examples you see. And then there's the thousands of indie games that are crushed under their boots that you never
Pretty
see.
Much, yeah.
Yeah, and like YouTubing too, people see when people give me YouTubing advice, it's like, well, you're seeing the massive successes in YouTube, but you don't see, because I'm starting to see more and more channels around my size, just how they're crushed under YouTube's boot all the time. So
yeah, survivorship bias. It's that old picture of the planes that came back with the all the holes in them. They said, let's put the armor there because the planes that didn't get shot there, those ones didn't come back.
Right, exactly.
There's a joke to be made about hitboxes there, I feel. But, the moment has passed, I suppose. And what's the World War II type game with the most egregious hitboxes? I gotta go research that, I suppose.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, there's some out there. I also wanted to ask you, so I have talked to Super XYX developer. He did like itch.io quite a bit. So it sounds like you enjoy using it as well. You think it's a solid platform for me to basically promote for the indie developer.
It's good in terms of technology. It's good for players because they just give you exe of the game, or you could use their app which automatically updates games. You've got your flexibility there, which you don't get with Steam. They can't really do much about the sales culture thing because that's just been kicked into people's heads now, and it's a huge shame. But on itch, the revenue split is just a slider on the website. And you say,
talk about that because that fascinates me.
It defaults to 10%, and you can move it to 0. You can move it to 100, and that's just how much you want them to have of what they take. Most people just let it set it at 10% because that seems
fair. That seems fair. But that's crazy that they do that.
If you're struggling, you can put it down to 0 for a little bit. You can bump it up later. It's entirely up to you, and it seems to work for them. So the case for Steam's 30 is ridiculous, especially since Steam actually lowers, and I'm sorry to keep talking, but this is so insulting to me. Steam lowers their revenue split once you start selling millions of copies. They lower it to 25. They lower it to, I think it's 25. I'm pretty sure it's 25 because they want to keep their relationship with these big games. So they're subsidizing the big games off the back of the small games that are barely making $5,000.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
exactly what I was gonna say. When I
Yeah.
saw that revenue split, I'm like, that seems hella backwards to me. But of course, in the world of business, no, it's not, because you give the lucrative deals to the
Mhm.
winners,
Yeah.
and you give the shit deals to the losers. Basically, it's like, okay, you're basically going nowhere. We don't care if you leave. We don't care if you're crushed by your finances. We'll
Mhm.
just take your money and move on. But then you get like, like Epic comes in. Oh, okay, we're gonna start doing kind of revenue splits. They're like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute, Capcom. Hold on a sec, Capcom. You can stay. We'll drop this down for you, or whatever the developer is.
Yeah, exactly.
It so clearly illustrates their priorities, right? It feels more insulting than if they're just like 30%. We don't give a shit. We want your money. We don't care who you are. But when they start giving kinder splits to larger games, it's like, what the hell is going on here?
It's just a very egregious display that it has absolutely no relationship with their costs. Like your tiny little indie game that's maybe like 1 GB
Yes, yeah,
compared
exactly.
to, is gigabyte the correct pronunciation? Gigabyte?
Doesn't matter. It was funny, so that's all. It doesn't matter.
Gigabyte. I'm gonna keep saying gigabyte. I don't give a shit. I'm through the looking glass now. I see through the bullshit. So yeah, it's just, it has absolutely no relationship with their own costs, with the value their platform provides. It is just rent seeking. It's just rent seeking.
Yeah, exactly. People are saying that they're giving all these justifications for that 30%. It's like, yes, if you were XXX, you have a 60 GB game, you could have benefited from the gigabyte game. You could benefit from their algorithm in some way, like if you're this really mainstreamish title. But if you're an indie niche shmup where you're saying, you have a fixed audience, why would you just give 30% basically for doing everything yourself, and then Steam just, uploads it for you, where you could go to itch? I think you probably would agree that it's probably wise to have availability on both.
Oh, definitely.
But from my perspective as being like someone trying to point people in a direction, I'd want to point them to itch, because it's just, you're giving way more money, you're getting paid sooner from what I hear, and it's just going to be, you're maximizing your revenue more than if you're just throwing 30% away to Steam for the hell of it.
Yeah. Generally, like what you see is people that have both like Steam and itch. Itch is like 5 to 10% of their sales. And obviously, we are very grateful for people that buy our game on any platform. I don't want to. I've been ranting so much about the platforms, but the individual players, if you're supporting us, that's awesome. That's great. But yeah, it's like 5 to 10% of your sales, even though like, what is the actual difference in the platform? Yeah, okay, leaderboards, that's fine, but even that is kind of a niche feature.
Yeah,
and the reason is because
Blue
of this
Revolver,
insane lock-in.
Yeah, and Blue Revolver has built-in leaderboards in the game, so like in replays and all that stuff. So
replays, but online leaderboards are exclusive to Steam because I'm lazy.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Okay.
Because I can't be bothered to host a server just for that and all these sorts of things.
But what I was talking about too is I think one reason that itch has such low sales percentage, of course, is I think one thing that can help is just people don't know it exists. And so that's one thing I'm trying to accomplish, is just let them know that there's this option. You can choose, if you want the Steam version, you can, or the itch version. But I just think a lot of people do not know the itch version even exists. So that's why I've been trying to bring more attention to it. It's like, hey, if you want to give a juicier cut to the indie developer, which I personally would definitely do, then check to see if there's the itch version, buy that, and then
it's like buying free range, right? Buying organic,
yes,
something like that.
Yes, exactly. I think that's a good comparison. So there's one other thing that I want you to give your expertise on that is a big concern, especially as of late, which is the decision for an indie shmup developer to publish independently or to find a publisher. I want your insight on this.
I haven't worked with indie publishers outside of a few talks here and there, but and this is where the takes a real downer, because there's so many examples of just bad actors in that space. Yes. Obviously, it's not representative of the whole; it's a minority, but they exploit developers. There's like harassment, sexual harassment, all these awful sorts of things. So just going off that, it's a risk straight up. And short of giving you like cash up front, which most publishers can't or won't do, what do you get in return? Even a company that
exactly.
has like a massive war chest for marketing and promotion would struggle to market a shooting game. Big like streamers and content creators, they avoid shooting games like the plague because there's nothing in it for them. You can't like, do you know Avoiding the Puddle?
Yes.
etc.
Yes.
He talks about Twitch acting a lot, which is illuminating. And he specifically talked about a shooting game once that like one of his moderators made or something, and he said, I would love to stream this, but like I just can't. I can't Twitch act, I can't interact with people. There's no point. So even a company that has a massive truckload of money would struggle to market a shooting game through the usual like channels. So what do you get? They take some of the money, they put their name on your game. Unless I can find a publisher where it's like, this is our plan, this is what we're gonna do, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I love that. What's the point?
That's what I've been trying to talk about too. It's just from the financial perspective. There's always, like you say, there's that huge risk. Because personally, I would never do that, but that's just my mentality. I'm very like self-published anyway. But even just if you're willing to kind of, with shmups specifically, I cannot see a huge benefit that they could possibly. The only thing I could see them that could possibly be worth it, which I still question about whether it's worth it or not, is if they're saying, okay, we can get this on the Switch eShop, we can get this on the PS4 for you.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. And if I was looking at consoles, then I would say, is there a publisher here that can help absorb the upfront costs of getting like a dev kit that can offer like actual expertise, so like QA, that sort of thing? Yeah, that makes more sense. But if you're just publishing on the PC, then what are you getting here?
Yeah, and I was talking to about this before, and I was thinking maybe it might be possible if there was some sort of shmup community thing, because I've talked to other people about this, where I and some other people chip in on like a dev kit for the Switch, and we just send it out to like people we trust, developers we trust, like, hey, you want to make a Switch port? Here's the dev kit. And we just like send it to them. I don't know what red tape would be involved in that, but I could see that being, and there's no publishing deal or anything like that. It's just like a community thing. It's like, oh, you want to use our community dev kit? Here you go. We'll send it to you.
I don't really have many eyes on the insides of console dev. I just know that it's a money sink. It's a time sink. There's all sorts of things that you wouldn't have to think about otherwise. And personally, I don't give a shit about putting games on consoles. It's
I want to get
really
your
something that's interesting to me.
So you don't think just purely monetarily that there's enough reward for doing that, like getting Blue Revolver on the Switch?
I would see it as a risk.
A risk, okay.
A risk there, or a gamble. It's saying like there's financial outlay, there's time outlay, there's all these sorts of things, and you're expected to absorb these costs. And
what costs are you having? Because I don't know. I want to learn more. Like, what costs are you having to absorb if you're like, okay, Blue Revolver on the Switch, let's do this? What on your side are you having to pay for? I'm assuming like the dev kit, but are there other things besides that?
Like I say, I don't have a lot of eyes on this process. I just hear it again and again and again, where it's like, yeah, we're chasing console dev, and it ain't free. There used to be a time where like dev kits were being sent out for free. That gold rush might have dried up by now. I'm probably the wrong person to ask about this. So there's like,
so maybe there's some kind of like licensing Nintendo fees where they're gonna hit you with a fee, like, hey, you want to get on the store, you gotta pay $5,000 or some crazy shit.
Nintendo have built this platform that people really like. Why shouldn't they charge developers to use it? That sort of thing. Yeah. On top of the cut they take on the store. Anyway, like I say, I'm gonna keep coming back to this, which is just that I don't have so much expertise on console dev, so I can't really say much.
That's unfortunate too, because you'd think from a console perspective, it's like, well, we want more games on our platform that gives value to our platform. But, like you said, they're always going to be, okay, we need to shake you down for some money here or there, which sucks. That's good to know, though. That's something I'm going to look into more, seeing if there's some kind of way to help people do that if they're interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing I want to ask you about is, what are your personal future plans with indie developing, shmupping, Blue Revolver, all that good stuff?
So I have struggled with severe mental health issues for some time now. I've finally been assigned some formal help, medical help. It has only been recent, and it is very slow going right now because of pandemic, etc.
Oh yeah, jeez.
So my focus right now is obviously on recovery, feeling I can actually do the work that needs to be done on double action. So I would like to say again, I'm sorry that it's just not happening right now. It will appear in one form or another eventually. It might be underwhelming after all this time, but it will be there. Just sorry. Going after that, I would like to make at least one more shooting game to, like I said earlier, advance the concepts in Blue Revolver. I would also like to play around with the structure of things a little bit, where if you buy like a arcade shooting game right now, then the kind of 25-minute 1cc run, which is awesome and great, that's the start, middle, and end. What if for beginners that was presented as like the end of a process, where if you're just like completely newcomer, if you've never played a shooting game before in your life, the game plays more like a training montage, right? Where you're gearing yourself up for this run, right? Where you're training yourself. So that's something I'm really curious about presenting, while still making it so that, if you're like a hardcore player, then you can come in and be like, okay, I could just play this like any other game. Or I can, train myself. I can enjoy all these extra features. After that, if I was able to make like a survival horror game and maybe an Earth Defense Force style game, I would be a very happy person on my deathbed whenever that comes.
That would be crazy. Survival horror, like a Resident Evil, like a Resident Evil type game, or something different.
Yeah, Resident Evil, pretty much.
Which one? Which one would be the main inspiration, I guess?
So I really like Resident Evil Remake. I think it's probably my third favorite game of all time.
The one on the cube?
Yeah, the one on the cube.
Hell yeah.
Hey, the cube, I think it just has so much brilliant. It just has so much brilliant design in that game. I would probably forgo static camera angles, maybe have a little bit stronger gunplay, but something like that where it's very resource oriented. You've got this small environment where it's so intimate. You're dodging stuff, you're dodging zombies, etc. You have to shooting something is like, oh no, what have I done, more than anything, because you've just escalated the problem basically in Remake. So that would be the main inspiration in terms of gameplay.
That would be really cool. Would you have to start going into like 3D development for that, or how would you approach that?
I mean, we're talking like quite a while in the future, because
right.
But yeah, it would probably be a 3D game of some description. But I mean, hey, this ain't my first rodeo. I've made I've made a game in Unity which was about rocket jumping and shooting Utah teapots, while John Carmack appears in the corner and says, "You did a really good job."
So it sounds like you've been dabbling in that sort of thing. For me, I can kind of do some Game Maker 2D stuff, okay-ish. Mm-hmm. So like 3D to me is like, oh my god, now we're getting scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But super impressive. Just speaking on topic of 3D gaming, if you ever get into the flow, I would love to see more like rail shooter shit come out that's just legit.
Okay.
Just in the right hands.
Like a Sin and Punishment style game?
Sin and Punishment, yes. Like, love rail shooters so much. And it sucks because they're like shmups even more, because they're even more obscure, or even more like besides Star Fox 64 and stuff like that.
Yeah, like
people care. I don't even give a shit about them, even the shmup players. So it's like, I'd love to see more rail shooters.
As a rule, like, I'm one of these awful stubborn fools that doesn't like most Nintendo games, and like whenever people mention them, I like screw up my face. But when I think of Star Fox 64, I'm like,
the best.
Man, why aren't there like a million games like this? This is tight as fuck.
Shoot, I'm taking damage.
Star Fox 64 is like so good. And what's
there's
funny,
so many you have so many concepts you could take from shooting games and massage them into that, and you might have something really cool then.
yeah,
Imagine like Battle Garega, but a real shooter. Jesus.
Hell yeah. And the thing about Star Fox 64 too that I find very funny is it's one of the least popular among like Nintendo fans. And you say, oh, that's not true. I've watched so many Star Fox 64 reviews and done videos on it and stuff, and Star Fox Zero I felt was like crazy mistreated and underrated and stuff. And it's just, people think Star Fox 64 is flying to Andros and killing him on like just Route 1, and that's Star Fox 64. Like, you didn't beat Star Fox 64, you didn't even medal expert mode. Like, there's so much more to that game that people never even touch, like expert mode, medaling. Yeah, that game is just way too cool for most Nintendo players, I feel like. It's just way
That's
too
how
good.
you feel after your Nintendo live reviews, I suppose. A scathing hatred.
I felt that way a lot about... I like Nintendo a lot, the Cube, and then after the Cube, I'm like, that's where things start to get iffy for me with Nintendo, like, where they went more... they dumb things down a lot. And
how do you feel about the Sin and Punishment game that was on the Wii?
Badass, dude. Sin and Punishment Star Successor?
Star Successor, and that's what
Hell yes. So, Nintendo didn't make that game. It's on the Wii, but Nintendo didn't make it.
That's probably the one Wii game that I would want to play.
I actually like some Wii games, because there's some games on there.
The Trauma Center games, I suppose, even though that works way better on like the DS, I suppose.
Yeah, and I do I actually have a bit of a soft spot for the Wii, just for the rail shooting aspect of it, because there are some rail shooters on there. And you can play Resident Evil 4 with like light gun mechanics and shit, and I'm like, okay, I'm digging. That's like the coolest part of the Wii, is the light gun aspect of it. Other than that, yeah.
I have I have big opinions on Resident Evil 4 too, but this has gone on for like long, so maybe we shouldn't get into that.
Yes, indeed.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Anyway, any final topics you want to talk about before we end the podcast?
Maybe I'll just ask a few like kind of random fun questions, if that's okay.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
What's your favorite Euro shmup?
Euro shmup? Oh.
Your favorite Euro shmup?
After much thought, Mark could not come up with a single example. Weeks later, while editing this podcast, Mark decided that his favorite Euroshmup is Robotech on the Game Boy Advanced. Mark loves Robotech and just wishes the game wasn't so jank.
Proper Euroshmup.
Yes, I'm trying to think, because I have a real low tolerance for Euroshmup, so it's hard for me.
There's like a trifecta of games I think of when I think of Euroshmups.
Okay, give me yours, because I'm the problem with Euroshmup is I play him for like 5 seconds. I'm like, screw this shit, and I move on.
Well, when I think Euroshmup, I think of old forum threads where it'd be like, "Here's the Shmup Mega Thread, everyone." And then the first post would be like, "Oh man, who here has played Raptor Called the Shadows and DOS? That game was awesome. It's the best shmup."
Oh, okay. Well, is like Defender a Euroshmup?
Oh Jesus! Is a hot dog a sandwich? I don't
know. Okay,
anyway.
there's this. Okay, I got one for you though.
Okay.
There's this one on the Switch called Aqua Kitty DX. That's like a Defender style.
I have that on my Vita.
I like that one. That one's pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of Euro shmuppy, but I like it.
I have a kind of soft spot for Terrian because that is one of those old DOS games that just has so much stuff in it.
Right.
It is like it's not really that fun to play, but it's got all these modes and all these insane secret features, like Christmas mode, or all these bonus levels, or a mode where like it's a 2-player mode and one guy flies the ship around and another guy aims. It is pretty nuts in that respect. There's just so much stuff in that game that you kind of have to respect it. Raptor is a boring game in comparison.
What are your favorite Euro shmups? Because I'm drawing blanks here.
Like I said, Terrian is the game that I have a kind of soft spot for. Is Azure Lane a Euro shmup, I wonder? Maybe that's a philosophical question.
What is a Euro shmup?
Yeah. Which forthcoming project are you keen to see the most? Because there's been quite a there's quite a lot of projects in the pipeline right now.
You know the answer to that.
Okay.
Blue Revolver double action.
No. Shut up.
I'm not lying. I'm serious.
No.
Okay, other than double action.
Apart from
other than double action. Oh, of course, Fire Lancer. Hell yeah.
I had so much fun with Fire Lancer at
Hell
Stunfest.
yeah, Fire Lancer for sure.
It was on like a cabinet, and I was like, "This game."
Did you play the demo?
Yeah, it was like I think it was a special build of it for the thing, and I did play the demo in my own time as well. But yeah, I just found myself playing more of that game than I really thought I would at Stunfest, and yeah, there's quite a lot of games coming in the pipeline right now. That you've got like what is that game? Mechanical Star Astra, Bullet Sorceress, all these indie games. I played the demo of Demonizer recently, which is
Demonizer. Yep, I want to play that one.
That game's kind of cool.
There's also this Star Fox-ish one.
Oh,
it's a 3D rail shooter Star Fox-ish game that's supposed to be coming out pretty soon next year. EX Zodiac. I want to try that one out.
Okay.
Because I love Star Fox and I need more of that in my life. If anyone announces some kind of rail shooter, I'm going to be hyped. If it looks remotely good. Because I deeply miss rail shooters.
You'd think VR would be like an avenue for that sort of thing, but VR is just there for its own sake, I feel.
Yeah. I'll give it a little bit more time before I form my opinion on VR. I'm kind of in limbo with my opinion on VR, because I could see it being kind of sick, and I could see it being really stupid, so I'm letting it develop before I make my judgment.
Yeah, I actually played the demo of Demonizer yesterday. I really liked the kind of Ketsui-style weapon system. The bombs suck. I hope they get changed by the developer. I have such a hard time giving feedback, but like bombs that don't give you invuln, bombs that don't give you invuln and have like a casting time, like a delay. Like, yeah, I know Blue Revolver's bombs are
the Garega
like
bomb.
Garega. Kind of like that. Even worse. Every game doesn't need to have Blue Revolver bombs, which are like insanely overpowered and can do like a million things and then rub your hair and pat your belly. But you know, a little bit of invuln on the bombs.
I haven't played the demo yet, but it does look cool. I want to check that out.
It is pretty cool.
Also, Boghog and Charlene are working on an indie shmup. I'm sorry,
Mechanical Star Astra.
I played the demo of that.
Looks tight.
No, I played the demo of it. It was hella good. I was giving my feedback on demo, like, just keep making the game. Just keep going. Don't get hit by a truck before you finish it.
Yeah, I have such a hard time giving feedback on games because
me too.
I always just assume that I'm never the smartest person in the room, and that like these people have their own. The developer must have their own vision, and like if the game crashes when I press L, I'm like, this must be a statement on how we all must take the L in modern society and how we live in a society, etc.
This is meta commentary on Steam's sale system. I have difficulty with giving feedback too. I'm trying to do my best to do it, but I do have difficulty too because for a little bit different reasons, because I have very strong opinions on things just in life but they need to be kind of stupid and pointless for me to have a strong opinion. If it's like a deep, complex subject, I'm usually kind of like, okay, I could see both sides. But if it's something like a movie title or gameplay mechanics or video games, I tend to have pretty strong opinions. And I get worried that I'm just going to bully the developer and just my vision of what the game should be. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Like, even talking about Demonizer, right? Like, there's definitely choices to be made with how your bombs work. And it feels bad to be like, hey, look, the big fella here, right? I'm like I'm like 6'2" and quite fat, right? I think you should put hella invuln on that bomb. Do it. So it feels kind of bad like that.
Yeah.
Like what is the difference between your personal preferences and just feedback?
And the hard part too is that really found this too with the Crisis Wing, where I couldn't criticize the game because a lot of what it was doing, was correct for the genre of shmup it was going for that like style of shmup. Because yeah, put me in there, I'm just gonna start morphing it into a bullet hell basically. And
yeah, exactly.
That's why it's tricky for me too, because it's like, well, I'm going to start putting my personal tastes. For instance, with Demonizer, maybe he's like, you know what? Most of the games I'm going off of don't even have bombs, so this is like something. So yeah, it's hard to say. But I guess when you get your hands on it. Okay, last question.
Yeah, final like quick fire question. And this is a real philosophical humdinger. Why are vertical games better than horizontal games?
Because they are. Okay, I'll try and give you a real answer.
Okay.
I think the way the level design and the way you interact with the bullets and everything in vertical just seem to work better for our brain anatomy. That's my guess. I have a much easier time tracking bullets, reading patterns in that orientation. Where horizontally, you need to use your peripheral vision more, and my peripheral vision blows. I literally sometimes cannot see all the screen at once, especially in a lot of the like 16:9 shmups coming out. They're shooting the bullet from the right side of the screen, and my left eye is like trying to see my ship at the same time. But I feel like with my vision, I'm able to see all the screen all at once vertically. That's my assumption. I think a lot of it is the way we track the bullets with our eyes. We're much better going up and down than we are going left and right, I think.
The way I feel is that it's more visceral because the bullets, like, they're coming directly upon you. They're washing down on you. They're coming towards you. If you're like, imagine like sitting on a cabinet.
True.
The bullets like come down towards you.
The way your eyes see it, yeah.
Yeah, whereas on like a horizontal thing, you're just kind of watching them drift into some guy or witch in the terms of death smiles or whatever, and you're like, it sucks to be that person.
Yeah, it feels
disconnected.
It's less POV type thing. It's less like your perspective. Maybe it's kind of like a first person shooter type thing too, right? It's like you're not that far from being a first person shooter vertically, right? It's just 2-dimensional. I definitely agree. Vertical is the hotness, of course. So yeah. I've been trying to get better at horizontals though. I've been practicing.
It's not like there's no good horizontals out there. Just saying vertical games are better than horizontal games. I'll believe that. But I will also play Darius Gaiden until the end of days.
Well, I think just at least population of game wise, there's no denying that vertical population is crazy. The quality of games out there, and there are good horizontal shmups too. But I agree. I like the vertical orientation a lot better. I play vertically a lot better. But there are some really great horizontal shmups. I was playing one recently. I'm trying to think what it was that I really liked. Oh, Battle Traverse, of course.
Yes.
What is your favorite horizontal shmup? Oh, let's go with your favorite shmups. Vertical and horizontal.
Well, my favorite shooting game of all time, Kitsui.
Solid choice.
It's just Kitsui. Yeah, it's a boring choice. I don't care, right?
Doesn't matter.
It's the best game ever designed, okay? Favorite horizontal game? I mean, like, Darius Gaiden is really good, but
very true.
It's part of the reason it's good is because it feels like an adventure, really, like a journey.
It's you're not really acid like play the game.
It's not like a pulse pounding kind of
like a surreal experience.
Yeah, it's more like that. Other horizontal games that I like, horizontal shooting games. I mean, there's a lot of games that I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't really like. I wouldn't go to them. There was a game that I played a lot in university, which is Pro Gear.
Pro Gear's great.
I really got into Pro Gear. It's probably the cave game that I'd advanced in the more. Like, I got all the way to 2.5.
Hell yeah.
Even though that's like a really dark point in my life, even darker than the point I'm at right now in some ways. So I just can't play that game I just can't play that game anymore. The bad vibes of Pro Gear, man. It is a really nice game.
I know what you mean. I've been there with certain games too, where like it's not the game's fault, but it was at the wrong place in the wrong time.
If there's one feature that I probably should have put in Blue Revolver, it would be the 3 waifu meters from Pro Gear. Active, safe, lovely.
Yes. Yeah. That's awesome. What do you think about Death Smiles? Do you like that one?
I'm not such a fan, I'll be honest. It just doesn't click for me, I must say.
Is it the turning left and right thing, or what is it?
I can't say. It's like if I like a game, it's so easy for me to say what I like about it.
Yes.
If I don't like a game, it's like I'm not even going to spend the brain energy on this.
Yeah. I know. I've been there.
One thing about Death Smiles is that I was in an HMV in like years ago, and I just remember seeing Death Smiles staring out at me. Like, this is a UK record store, and there's Death Smiles here on one of the shelves, and it's like, holy shit. And then you look at it, it's like, Death smiles at all of us, and Loli's smile back, or whatever the tagline was, and
it's like, wow, we got you in the shop. We know the secret now. Yeah, I think I actually remember, I have never seen a 360 shmup in my local stores ever, but I think I saw Death Smiles one time. Like, before I played shmups all that much and stuff, but I'm pretty sure I saw Death Smiles. I was like, oh, this game looks pretty crazy.
I've seen Death Smiles, and I think I saw DFK 1.5 somewhere.
Wow.
But I'm not even such a fan of DFK, I must say. But what can you do?
Danger, Will Robinson.
That's not such a controversial opinion these days, right?
It's got a movement, man. DFK's hot now. It's hot.
If you like DFK, more power to you. You're my friend. But it's not for me. I can't go down that road, man.
Well, I think too, like, the thing about the nice thing about a lot of the cave games is, like, you can have a lot of preferences for them because they're all pretty different from each other, but they all have a baseline quality that's justifiable in my. It's like, it's still good, you know.
I mean, even Danganronpa, which is like probably their most jank game, I feel it's still like it's a legit game.
yeah. I need to play some Dangan soon. Well, awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the secret podcast episode. I think people really enjoy this.
Scream for hours.
Well, that's what I'm here for. If you can't do it on my channel, where can you do it? Well, awesome. Thanks so much. Take care, my dude.
All right.
So thank you to Dingo, Handicap, Anthony A, Ben Win, Borgie22, Choreo, Disco Star Slayer, Eric H, Full Set, Retro Schmupper, Hausu, Kiwi, JLab, JB RPG, Joe Angelo, Gameboy Guru, K, Malaise, Mark Toms, Martin Worrell, Maz, Mayher Calendrian, Queen Charlene, Nathaniel Davis, N Electron, Okla Kugels, Philip Mason, Ram Q, Raul, Smacky Factor, Sugumo, Utukaya, and Plasmo. Thanks for watching.